Hi, welcome to the legal wing of Perchance to Read, where I read one word or legal term and quickly break it down for trial watchers. As I say each time, there's no focus on any one trial in this series, just the trial words. And as always, nothing in this video is intended to be legal advice to anyone about anything. Okay, let's jump right in. Voir dire. Part of the process for selecting the jury in a court case that will weigh the evidence introduced at trial and decide for or against a person, or a party or parties, if they can come to a unanimous decision. A cornerstone of due process. We are starting off with a bit of a controversy though. The meaning of voir dire. The words voir dire are French. They literally translate to see, say. Voir means see, and dire means say. By the way, before we resolve the primary controversy, let's address a secondary controversy. Dire is not pronounced dire, like to be in dire straits or in dire need. It's pronounced deer, like the cute animal in English. So as we said, voir dire means see, say. Many will say it means to speak the truth, but that's not entirely accurate. Let's unpack it and clear it up. So quickly, again, when juries are selected for trials in the United States, whether criminal or civil trials, part of that selection process has a name, voir dire. Before that part occurs though, we have to go through the first part, which is when members of the community are selected by various processes used all over the United States, including taking names from voter registrations or motor vehicle registrations, or even lists of state taxpayers, to be summoned to court to possibly serve on a jury. When a person answers a jury summons, they must be accountable, ready, available to the court for a possible selection to serve on a jury for the period of time set out by the summons, whether a morning, an afternoon, a day, or a week. Those available for a week usually have to call a phone number every night for that week to see if they need to be in court the next day for possible selection to serve on a jury. Folks serving a half day or a full day usually must show up, regardless, on the specified date for which they're summoned. So fast forward to the step where prospective jurors have shown up to court and are now sitting in a big room somewhere with coffee and a book they haven't quite gotten into, but that they hope will finally hook them now that they've been summoned to wait around and not leave until dismissed, figuratively standing at the ready for possible selection for a jury during the prescribed time period. They may not and likely won't ever serve on a jury, but they're there and ready. Fast forward again. The prospective juror waits in the designated area and is actually called to a courtroom as a possible juror for a case about to go to trial. Once in the courtroom, there may still be a chance that this is the farthest they get, making the courtroom just another waiting area, albeit an area more specific to a particular trial. They may never make it into one of the actual juror chairs inside the jury box, but I'm going to keep them moving forward for this video. Their name is called again, and they've been asked to take a seat in the jury box. To develop a jury, the parties in any type of case will want to ask prospective jurors questions to see if they are right for the jury. That's the voir dire phase. And here's where the name comes in. As counsel or self-represented parties pose questions to the prospective jurors, they will see what a prospective juror says, see, say, voir dire, to determine if they are right for the jury. Because the makeup of the jury is arguably the most crucial element of any trial, it is important for prospective jurors to speak the truth during the see, say phase. Thus the literal translation, see, say, metamorphosing over time to take on the meaning which is different from the simple translation of speak the truth. Thus, voir dire does now mean speak the truth, even if that's not what it translates to. So what does it mean to be right for the jury? What happens in the voir dire phase? Well, when one considers what is at stake in any trial, winning one's case or losing one's case, and possibly one's freedom or a large sum of money or the sought-after outcome, both sides will want jurors who can be fair and who have no specific biases that may make it impossible for them to judge the facts of the case fairly. They may be otherwise fair people, but they may have biases that make it more difficult for them to weigh evidence in a particular case without seeing the evidence through the lens of their biases. Logistics such as whether the prospective juror can actually come to court every day for the entire length of the trial will also factor in, but the primary goal of the voir dire phase, the see-say phase, is to see what prospective jurors say in answer to pointed questions directed specifically at them to gauge whether they are speaking the truth about their potential biases and will be fair jurors who will keep an open mind about the evidence presented during the trial. And this can be the toughest part of the trial. How can parties know if a person they've never met is telling the truth about how they feel about violence, or drunk drivers, or mean bosses, or inherited money, or shoplifters, or drivers of luxury cars, or the prison system? Voir dire questions are therefore designed to try to get at the truth of a prospective juror's feelings about things, no matter how hard the prospective juror may work to hide those feelings for whatever reasons. The attorneys or self-represented parties have the task of working through responses to questions to try to see whether what the prospective juror says is true. Questions can be very wide-ranging, from "Do you think CEOs are automatically cheaters in life?" to "Have you ever had to break up a fight between two people?" to "Do you believe everyone is entitled to a defense?" to "Do you believe people whine too much about problems?" to "Have you ever witnessed sexual harassment at work?" Questions may be broad to draw out a potential juror and then become more specific as a possible juror answers questions. The potential juror may be asked to elaborate on an earlier answer. Some cases have overarching implications that may be a problem for literally every prospective juror, and for those cases, courts will use juror questionnaires that ask every prospective juror the identical set of questions. Since every potential juror will need to answer the same questions, using a questionnaire is a much more efficient way to gather the answers. Voir dire will still occur, but questionnaires are efficient time savers for questions that have to be asked of every potential juror. Depending upon the type of case and the jurisdiction, each side may have a specific number of what are called peremptory challenges to potential jurors, allowing that side to dismiss a potential juror or excuse a potential juror during voir dire without giving any reason. Using a peremptory challenge to excuse a potential juror based on their race, ethnicity, or gender is not allowed and can be challenged if the pattern is spotted. Challenges for cause are just what they sound like. A potential juror is challenged for a particular reason. For example, they are the neighbor of one of the witnesses that will appear in the trial, or they sit on the same school board that is the subject of the lawsuit, and the party challenging the juror will state that reason to the court and request that the juror be excused. The judge will make the final determination of whether the potential juror will be thanked and excused. And there you have it, voir dire. If this was helpful, please hit that like button. Links to my other trial watchwords are above and in the description, or you can simply let the playlist roll. Links to my traditional channel material are also in the description. And it bears repeating, nothing in this video is intended to be legal advice to anyone about anything. Thanks for watching.